bam, boom, there I am. Also, be sure to download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or simply tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580. And like magic, there I am for your listening pleasure. Also, last but certainly not least, be sure to subscribe to a More Perfect Union podcast. That way, you'll never, ever, ever miss an episode. Yeah, summer's almost here, and even if you're traveling around the block, you won't be traveling alone, because you'll have a More Perfect Union podcast right there with you. And so be sure to do all of those things. Now it's time for your National News Roundup. It's time for the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. And busy day at the U.S. Supreme Court. The U.S. Supreme Court unanimously upholds access to abortion pill mifepristone. We have talked about the importance of this drug, not just for folks seeking an abortion and looking to exercise their reproductive rights, but even for those that are on their fertility journey. This drug is a part of that journey. The availability of a common abortion pill will remain unchanged. The U.S. Supreme Court ruled today in a unanimous 9-0 decision, handing a major victory to abortion rights supporters who feared that the court that overturned Roe v. Wade just 2 years ago would further hack away at access to the procedure. The case, a consolidation of Food and Drug Administration versus Alliance of Hippocratic Medicine and Danco Laboratories versus Alliance for Hippocratic Medicine, dealt with the FDA's ability to regulate mifepristone, one of two drugs typically used in medication abortions, which now make up more than 60% of all U.S. abortions and have become a major target of anti-abortion activists. A coalition of abortion opponents had tried to persuade the Supreme Court to roll back a series of moves by the FDA to expand access to the drug, such as allowing abortion providers to mail mifepristone to patients, a request that the justices met with skepticism in the case's March arguments. Now, the abortion opponents claim that if the FDA's current regulations of mifepristone were allowed to remain, anti-abortion doctors could suffer harm if they have to treat a woman who experiences complications from mifepristone. But in today's majority opinion, Justice Brett Kavanaugh rejected that argument, ruling that the anti-abortion activists did not prove that they had the legal right or standing to bring the case in the first place. And so, I am no lawyer, but this morning I talked to one of my sister friends, Yemi Ade-Bomeri, who is a lawyer and has been following this case, and was sharing some analysis this morning that we shouldn't break out the confetti for people that are looking for a clean victory related to reproductive rights. This is not that. The unanimous decision really stems from the fact that they found that folks didn't have standing, right? And so it's important to look at what Justice Clarence Thomas wrote related to this case. And we certainly will be getting into that at another time. But this is the latest news on the reproductive rights front coming out of the U.S. Supreme Court just today. And related news, the push to protect IVF fails in the Senate after Republicans reject a Democratic plan. USA Today is reporting that the Senate just today rejected a push to protect access to in vitro fertilization, a vote that was expected to fail in the face of nearly unanimous opposition from the chamber's Republicans. Democrats, including Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, has promised to bring up a series of votes protecting reproductive health this summer in an effort to squeeze Republicans with uncomfortable decisions in the lead up to the November election. Senators on Thursday considered the Right to IVF Act, a bill from Senator Tammy Duckworth of Illinois, who used the treatment to have 2 children. And Senators Patty Murray of Washington and Cory Booker of New Jersey, it would have barred states from adding restrictions to IVF and required insurance plans to cover the fertility treatment, but senators failed to reach the 60-vote threshold needed to move forward with the legislation. Sound familiar? It should, because Senate Democrats weren't able to reach that 60-vote threshold related to a lot of very important priorities to a great deal of Americans across the country. So whether you're talking about the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, or the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, or the Equality Act, there are so many Democratic priorities that are on the other side of that filibuster. And we just added another one. The Right to IVF Act is now on the other side of that 60-vote threshold. And so something to consider as we make our way to the November election. And speaking of the November election, USA Today is also reporting that Trump talks 2025 wish list with House Senate Republicans in first visit to Capitol Hill since his presidency. That's right. The former president talked about backing his fellow Republicans on the campaign trail this fall and laid out a conservative wish list on issues ranging from tariffs to abortion rights as he met with GOP lawmakers in Washington today. It's not uncommon for presumptive presidential nominees to meet with lawmakers from their party to plot their agenda should they win in the election year. But the trip marks the first time that Trump has returned to Capitol Hill since leaving office nearly 4 years ago, and when a mob of the supporters stormed the Capitol building on January 6, 2021. Trump said that he plans to help the majority of House Republicans win re-election in a nod to the infighting among the group that has at times extended on the campaign trail. Moderate Republicans have endorsed primary challenges against their more conservative colleagues and vice versa, sparking even more tension in the conference. Trump declined to name names, but the former president has railed against Representatives Bob Good, a Republican of Virginia, who's chair of the ultra-conservative House Freedom Caucus, for alleged disloyalty. The Virginia Republican is facing a competitive primary challenger who's backed by Trump and a more moderate wing of the House GOP conference. And so that is all that's happening here in Washington that doesn't just impact folks here inside the Beltway, but it impacts our fellow Americans across the country. When we come forward, we're shifting gears a little bit. I'm really delighted to welcome author, publicist, and event planner Taru Brooks to the show. He has an incredible book that he's a part of that I can't wait to talk about. I have been enjoying reading this anthology of social, political, and cultural essays by Black scholarly men in the 21st century America. It's called Manish Water, and it's reflections on their lives and their world. Can't wait to share with you what Taru wrote in this book and why this book should be on your bookshelf as a part of our commitment to building a more perfect book club. How about that? More when we come forward. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Pardon the interruption. It's me, Tavis Smiley, here to remind you that we are now just days away from our historic Climate Justice Symposium live on C-SPAN this coming Tuesday, June 18th, 4 to 7 p.m. at the California Science Center. We are now pushing capacity. So if you plan to join us, stop procrastinating and get to KBLA1580.com right now and register. Attendance is free, but registration is mandatory. Black folk are flying into LA from all across the country to be in the room when we go live to the world with a stage full of Black brilliance on the eve of Juneteenth. And you live here, you better get to KBLA1580.com right now and claim your seat.
Get ready to play. Join the LA84 Foundation Saturday, June 29th for a free Playday block party at 2141 West Adams Boulevard with sports, games, and fun for all ages. With live music, amazing local food, and the spirit of LA's 1984 Summer Olympics celebrating 40 years of impact of the LA84 Foundation. June 29th at LA84's campus in West Adams from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Register at la84.org. See you at Playday.
Girl, I have a secret. When I get stressed out, I get sweaty. That's why I use Secret Clinical Antiperspirant. It's like my own secret weapon. For 72 hours, I get Secret's strongest protection against sweat caused by stress, heat, and activity, because you know how crazy life can get. Plus, it's made with advanced odor fighters that don't just cover up smelliness. They help prevent it from happening in the first place. Believe me, if I weren't wearing Secret, I'd be a hot, smelly mess. Thankfully, Secret works.
With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Kind of like choosing Derek Jeter as the pinch hitter for your baseball team.
Jeter, you're in. We need a home run.
I'll give it a try. I've swung a bat once or twice.
That's out of here.
Yep, even easier than that. With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, is it even a decision? That's banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One NA, member FDIC.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where everybody is somebody and nobody is a stranger. You belong here.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and I'm really delighted to welcome my good friend and author, Teru W. Brooks. He's joining us. He is a part of this really, really incredible work. It's called Manish Water, an anthology of social, political, and cultural essays by Black scholarly men in the 21st century America, reflections on their lives and the world. I have never quite seen a book like this, and I am so glad to welcome you to A More Perfect Union.
I am glad to be here. Thank you. I'm going to take my glasses off so it won't have such a glare.
That's all right. That's all right. It's great. It's great to have you here. And I've got to ask you, first things first, yes. What inspired you to be a part of this project? I mean, I have really been digging deep into this book. There are so many incredible essays where folks are just so vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And it's not often that we see, Black men on the written page, being so vulnerable. This anthology is pretty thick too. And so talk to us about what inspired you to be a part of it.
Well, when I was approached initially, I was a bit hesitant and quite intimidated, actually, when I was shared with who would be in the book. And I've never been published before. So I took a deep breath, and my mother really encouraged me to do it, or threatened me, better yet. And so she's been wanting me to write a book for a long time. I've been fighting that. So this was a way to have a happy medium. But besides the fun part of that, I've been on this whole path of advocating to enhance the image of Black men. And this is definitely a great opportunity to be a part of such a strong body of work that speaks to the fullness of who we are as Black men.
I mean, I love that. And I love the agency that this work affords to us as Black men. There certainly has been no shortage of headlines about Black men, certainly related to the 2024 election. Folks sort of scratching their head and trying to make sense out of what is it about former President Trump that may appeal to some Black men, while other Black men, being repulsed, and some Black men just feeling apathetic about all of it. And so, talk to us about some of the other stories that are part of this anthology, in addition to yours, that really sort of speak to the political climate that we find ourselves in today.
Well, I think they all can tie into it because there's so many social implications to it, without giving too much information about each person's chapter to spoil it. There is a particular person that wrote about the depths of his struggle in coming out as a part of the LGBTQAI plus community. But the way he wrote his chapter is so masterful. It's like it's like you sit in the auditorium of this orchestra just playing with words. I mean, he can I do an opening line of it or whatever? Can I share a little bit?
Of course, by all means, you
So
can.
I do need my glasses for this. This gentleman was so clever. His name is Dr. Daniel Black. So this is actually the book right here. So people can see that. His chapter is entitled "When I Was a Boy." He opens by saying this: "There will be no children to surround my deathbed, no grandchildren to reminisce of holidays with Pawpaw, no great-grandchildren to carry my name into eternity. But that's not why I came. I came to reproduce ideas, not people."
Wow.
So he opens with that. And it's just such a powerful statement for someone who may be single. It doesn't have to be a man, because someone be single who didn't have children, who are older. So it touches everyone. The journey of this book spans almost 5 decades, and from an age range standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And you have people like Dr. Hugh Price in it. Yeah, I mean, you have people who are college presidents, world-renowned photographers. So we're touching all aspects of Black men who are astute, who are engaging and engaged, who are taking the time to be thoughtful enough to share their journey, to document. And one of the more important things, this book, we hope that it becomes required reading at the collegiate level about the African American male.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly no shortage of people who got something to say about Black men, and we are certainly surrounded by talk and images and ideas of our inadequacy. And I think this work really flies in the face of that.
Yeah.
There's so many stories of Black men sort of facing their fears with courage, displaying vulnerability. And there's so many lessons in folks' journey, right? I mean, sometimes we look at people and we see, just sort of a flash of who they are on the journey.
That's right.
But without understanding all of the work that they had to put in, the self-doubt and negative self-talk that we've had to shake loose in order to show up in the world as we are today. And your story is no different in that way.
Well, it was very interesting. I wasn't sure how to begin sharing my story, because we all could take it from, various spaces, because being a man that's 55, I've lived some sort of life here. And I realized that my life is not normal. I get it, and I'm grateful for it. But having the journey that I've had and just how I view the world like it's a pot of gumbo. All my lived experiences are simmering to perfection, and I'm the roux, which is the base of the gumbo. And I love to cook as well, and I have some references for that too. But I think that being able to tell my story using the gumbo analogy, I think was quite creative, given the non-traditional path that my life took. I wasn't really sure how to begin this process, but what I did, I had a friend of mine, Todd Belcourt, who interviewed me. And I started from my childhood, my earliest memory, and we just took it on to current date. And then I had to decide from there, what would the story be? And in that, we all have to be vulnerable in sharing. And so I started with my earliest challenge, and that was stuttering.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm very surprised that I put it out there like that. But if you've known me, in my younger years, there was no doubt that I stuttered. So,
which came as a surprise to me, Taru, when I was reading it, because as long as I've known you, I couldn't tell, that you ever sort of struggled, with a stutter.
yeah.
And I could relate to that because when I was a kid, I stuttered. And my mom thought, oh wow, maybe he's going to be a stutterer, right? That's how she thought of it.
Yeah.
And so it took me to the doctor, and I was tested and everything. And they said, Mrs. Quartey, he doesn't have a stutter. He just has a lot to say. He's trying to say it all at once, right? And so, I could relate to that in a special way. But in the book, you write about it so beautifully. And if you don't mind, I'd love to share a passage with our leaders, learners, and listeners. In the book, Manish, you write, quotes, "In school, stuttering would remain a constant companion and challenge. I was once given an assignment to read aloud the poem In the Morning by Paul Laurence Dunbar. This caused my mother great concern, and rightfully so. If I stuttered when asking for milk or lunch money, how was I ever going to accomplish this task? Despite her concern, this uh, assignment proved to be the first of many opportunities I had to sever ties with my lifelong companion. To everyone's surprise, I was able to recite the poem without stuttering. My mom was so relieved and thrilled for me that to this day, every once in a while, she'll ask me to recite the poem in front of someone. In 2018, while on vacation at Martha's Vineyard, after having an amazing breakfast with friends, Mom asked me out of the blue to recite In the Morning. My friends cackled in amusement at our interaction and exchange with each other as Mom leaned on me to get me to comply with her request. I didn't recall the poem in its entirety, of course, but I recited what I could. That was enough for Mom. She was overjoyed. And truth be told, whenever or wherever Mom makes her special request, I acquiesce with a smile and proceed to do my best. Why is it that still to this day, your mom asks you to recite that poem?
Well, it's interesting. When I began to write the chapter and the first paragraph speaks to the stuttering, and I was attempting to read it to my mom on the phone, and I got very emotional about it, and she was like, well, calm down. And I got frustrated. Why are you telling me to calm down? So I sent it to her. I said, now you read it. She couldn't get through without tears as well, because she went through the journey with me. It was very difficult, stuttering. I guess I had a lot to say as well. I think that because this was a accomplishment, this is something that she invested in with her time, resources, attentiveness. Not one time in my life as a child stuttering did my mother ever made me feel less than. She showed it's just an extraordinary amount of patience. She would just say, take your time. Okay, start over. I mean, literally, with that kind of love and attentiveness and that level of investment, knowing that that's one of the most interesting things that we like to do together is read, because I read a lot as a child. And my mom loves Black dialect poetry. And this may have sparked this in her. And are you familiar with the poem?
I am. Not only am I familiar with it, but when I was in college at USC, Dr. Maya Angelou came to visit. And during her lecture, she read us a number of poems by Paul Laurence Dunbar, who was one of her favorite poets.
Yes. I still to today love the poem, but I think it's a sense of pride that my mom has. She's very happy for me, just genuinely just happy that, I'm a result or an outcome from her and the love that she provided, right?
A mother's love goes very far, very far. We're talking about Manish Water. It is a a series of social, political, and cultural essays by Black scholarly men in the 21st century America. We're talking to one of those authors, Teru Brooks. When we come forward, we're digging into his essay even more. And shout out to all of the authors that are a part of this anthology, Manish Water. It is one of the best Father's Day gifts out there. It's one of the best graduation gifts out there. Don't walk, but run to Amazon to pre-order this book. That'll be available on June 27th. More with Teru Brooks. When we come forward, you're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
The station you turn to when you've had it up to here with cultural incompetence. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. The U.S. Department of Justice is revealing its findings in a years-long investigation into the Phoenix, Arizona Police Department. The almost 130-page report was released this week and shows the department used excessive force and violated the constitutional rights of individuals, especially minorities and those who are homeless. During a virtual press conference, Assistant Attorney General Kristen Clark of the DOJ Civil Rights Division added that officers would also use, quote, escalation as de-escalation, end quote, which in turn would put officers and the public at risk. The investigation was opened in August of 2021. A Lexington, Kentucky Vietnam vet is being honored at the Library of Congress in D.C. WKYT reports the story of Robert B. Owens' life will be shared in the library's Veterans History Project. Owens was an African-American Marine vet who died in 2000. That's the latest. I'm Amber Payton of your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. At Blindster, we offer over 50 different custom window treatments, including faux wood blinds and shutters, all at prices less than retail. Plus, we'll send you free samples before you buy. Don't hire an expensive pro. Do it yourself and save big at Blindster.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers' search for a head coach is back in the news today. NBA sources are confirming that J.J. Redick will have formal interviews this weekend with Lakers owner Jeannie Buss and general manager Rob Pelinka. The Lakers had casual conversations with Redick in May during the NBA pre-draft camp in Chicago. If Redick does well in meetings with Buss and Pelinka, NBA sources claim Redick, who has no previous coaching experience, will move to the top of the list among candidates. The Lakers are trying to regroup after they were turned down by Connecticut coach Dan Hurley. Redick is one of the analysts for ABC's coverage of the NBA Finals between Boston and Dallas. Boston is up 3-0. If the Celtics win Game 4 Friday night to sweep the finals, Redick will have more time to visit with Lakers management this weekend. Stay tuned. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, aka the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Have you heard of the 50-30-20 rule? This can help you spend and save your money wisely. So how does it work? Distribute your dollars into 3 buckets. 50% towards needs, 30% towards your wants, and 20% goes to savings. Use this tool to help your journey to financial success. Sponsored by JP Morgan Chase & Company.
We ask seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to
Scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number and put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
Oh, man. Looks like Bobby needs a ride to the airport again.
Grab the keys. Who's taking Auntie and her friends to the swap meet?
Grab the keys.
How about we drop these boxes off at Miss Johnson?
Grab the keys.
Whether you're giving rides or hauling gear, you're all about getting things done. So do it all in a Chevy SUV. From the versatile Equinox and Sporty Blazer to the roomy Traverse, our lineup of SUVs will carry you through every adventure. All you have to do is
grab the keys.
That's how we do. Head to your local Chevy dealer, where well-qualified buyers get 1.9% financing on all 2024 Malibu, Colorado, Blazer, Equinox, Trailblazer, and Traverse limited models. Chevrolet. Together, let's drive.
1.9% APR for 36 months. Monthly payment is $28.60 for every $1,000 you finance. Example down payment 15.8%. Must finance with GM Financial. Some customers may not qualify. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take new retail delivery by 7/1/24.
Broadcasting live from Leimert Park, USA. Welcome back to your home for unapologetically progressive radio. KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey in conversation with author, publicist, producer Taru W. Brooks. We're talking about a marvelous work that each of you should run, not walk, to order. It's called Manish Water, Social, Political, and Cultural Essays by Black Scholarly Men in 21st Century America. Pre-orders are available now. You can go to africaworldpressbooks.com to put in your pre-order. It'll be available June 27th, 2024. As a first-time author, I am vested in creating a community of other authors. I think books and ideas are a part of what we do to build a more perfect union. And Manish Water is on the money when it comes to that. Taru, I've got to ask you to tell me a little bit about how you intend to spend Father's Day. You write a lot about the support that you get, that you've received over the years from your mom, and the relationship with your mom, and the encouragement from your mom. And I think there are so many of our leaders, learners, and listeners that can relate to that. There are folks where Father's Day is actually quite painful for them because of, the tension or lack of relationship with their dads. Has that been an issue for you over the years? And if so, how have you reconciled that with what seems to be a really strong and positive and healthy relationship with your mom?
So, no, I don't really struggle with that at all. I didn't grow up with my father. I met him in college. And long story short, after 3 meetings of sorts, he just wasn't interested in being a parent. And I accepted that. And so I do believe, because I didn't grow up with him, I wasn't attached. And so that may have been the blessing for me in disguise, because there was no relationship. So I was not angry or upset about it. I understood people make choices, and who knows, given the person he was, I should say, because he's deceased, it may have been best that he wasn't there. I don't know. But I don't spend much time thinking about the past or what didn't happen, what should have, could have happened, because you can't do anything about it. What I do is celebrate Black fathers, just fathers, period, but especially Black fathers. My friends, all of them can tell you I'm 10 toes down in the support of their fatherhood. I don't have any children, again, but I really honor and respect and use my time on Father's Day to engage, support other Black fathers.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. In the book, you write, quotes, as an African American male, I believe that exposure is the main ingredient for liberation. For centuries, African American males have endured trauma with no help. It's clear how Black men are viewed in America. And as times move forward, the media has become progressively dogmatic about how we are presented. Entertainers, athletes, and criminals are the top three categories for how we're portrayed. While that is part of who we are, African American men show up in so many other ways. Before my current endeavors as the oldest of 5 children, I had the desire to create opportunities to expose my brothers and other young people to different narratives about our community in general and Black men in particular. Talk to me about exposure being a main ingredient. There are folks here that are listening that are finding their way. Some of them with the support of a dad or a father figure or a mentor. Some not. But talk to us about exposure as a superpower.
Well, let me say this. In this intentionality that I have to provide the exposure for us as Black men, I find it interesting that some people feel that I'm anti-woman because I'm intentional in this path in my journey to celebrate, support us. Because if we're not healthy, we can't be better fathers, better brothers, better uncles, better mentors. So there is space for us in this world, and we have to, we have to advocate for ourselves. We have to support each other, or it's not going to work. So I find it very interesting that I've had that bit of a input that is something wrong. Now I do stuff for everybody else. It's just the last few years I've been a little more intentional, or bringing things more to light at a different level, i.e., a documentary calendar that feature men of color based on their careers. So my youngest 2 brothers, I'm almost 20 years older than both of them. And so they would travel to meet me, premieres, different level of exposure, fine dining, this, that, and the third. Well, I realized I could not help all kids to expose them to my friends and network. I came up with the idea of a calendar, When I Grow Up, I Want to Be. And it was inspired by my little brothers, Greg and Danny. It featured African-American men based on their careers. We had historical facts of achievements of African-American men. We had characteristics of what was needed to become successful. And the culmination of the calendar, we were able to get all 12 men together. Again, 12 successful Black men who did a mirage of things, all to come together to inspire our young people. That level of exposure still continues to give today. I've been asked several times about doing another calendar. Don't know if I'll do that, but it's definitely it was definitely worth the effort and commitment that it took to provide the exposure for my brothers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, like you, I think exposure has made certainly a big difference to me. I remember being a kid when Nelson Mandela, who, I think you attended 3 dinners with Nelson Mandela in your young adult years, which is incredible. I just was one of 58,000 that had a chance to hear him speak at the Oakland Coliseum in the 90s. But that exposure to world leaders like Mandela, and, I write about and talk about having a dad that, would sit me down and say, son, you need to watch this on C-SPAN, or take me to public lectures at UC Berkeley.
Yeah.
Really has made a difference in my life and how I show up in the world and the things that interest me. And clearly, exposure to so many things that you write about have made a major difference for you, and will make a major difference to the folks that read this marvelous work. I am so excited about. Again, folks, you got to go out and purchase Mannish Water. social, political, and cultural essays by Black scholarly men in the 21st century America. Pre-orders are available now if you go to africaworldpressbooks.com. The book will be available starting on June 27th. Before I let you go, Teru, in the spirit of Yo Mama, I want to ask you to recite a few lines from Paul Laurence Dunbar's lovely poem In the Morning.
I'll do it. I can't see what that's on the screen, but I know it. I know it. Here we go. Liza, bless the Lord. Don't you know the days abroad? If you don't get up, you scamp. There'll be trouble in this here camp. Think I quine to let you sleep while I mix the board and keep? That's a putty how to do. Don't you hear me, Liza, you? And I'll stop there.
I love it. If your mom is listening,
she's gonna go up in smoke.
I hope we brought a smile to her face. Of course, you all can check out everything that Teru's doing if you go to Teru.com. That's TAROUE.com. And we want to continue to promote some of the stories from this anthology. And so we hope to bring on some other authors that are a part of this marvelous work. Our thanks to Teru W. Brooks for stopping by More Perfect Union.
Thank you.
More when we come forward. In fact, it's the quiet part out loud when we come forward. You're listening to a More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
The quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580.
The City of Los Angeles Civil Rights Department and its Reparations Advisory Commission invites you to join us on LA's Road to Reparations. Join us in person on Juneteenth, Wednesday, June 19th, 10 a.m. at All People Community Center, 822 East 20th Street, Los Angeles, California, 90111, to learn the results of Black Experience Survey, focus groups, and one-on-one interviews, and to learn how you can share your input to develop LA City reparations. For more info, visit laisforeveryone.com today or call 213-978-1845.
What does it take to take on Alzheimer's? Awareness that nearly 2/3 of those diagnosed are women, including Black women. Dedication to lowering your risk by eating healthy and monitoring blood pressure. And confidence to talk to your healthcare provider about screening and early detection. You have what it takes to take on Alzheimer's. Learn about signs and screening at takeonalz.com. Brought to you by the California Department of Public Health.
Hi, I'm Henry Winkler. My eyes are very important to me. My eyes connect me with everything I love. I loved my late father-in-law dearly. He always lit up a room, but his vision dimmed with age. He had age-related macular degeneration, or AMD. And since partnering with Apellis, I've learned there's an advanced form of dry AMD called geographic atrophy, or GA. His struggle with vision loss made me want to help others know about GA's warning signs. For some, colors appear dull or washed out. For others, hazy or blurred vision make it hard to see details, like fine print on price tags. Many have trouble seeing in the dark, making driving at night difficult. GA gets worse over time and cannot be reversed. If you think you have GA, don't wait. Treatments are available. Ask a retina specialist about FDA-approved treatments for GA and go to GAWon'tWait.com.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate meets a scholarly match.
You're listening to a More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and it's about time for the quiet part out loud. Not sure if folks have been tracking this, but this is important news that matters coming out of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. The Legal Defense Fund and other civil rights organizations have denounced South Carolina's Department of Education's removal of course credit for AP African American Studies. That's right. Just this week, the Legal Defense Fund and other civil rights organizations, they sent a letter to the superintendent of the South Carolina Department of Education denouncing its decision to remove course credit for advanced placement African American studies. The civil rights organization urged the South Carolina Department of Ed to restore academic credit for the course, citing the importance of fostering inclusive education for all students. The South Carolina Department of Education announced on June 4th, 2024, that was just, a little over a week and a half ago, that it would be removing the state course code that provides academic credit for AP African American Studies, citing a South Carolina budget provision and pending legislation that directly targets efforts to teach topics related to race and racism that center Black history and Black experiences. As explained in the letter, the decision contradicts current South Carolina state law, the Education Improvement Act of 1984, and state standards and processes for social studies curriculum. Furthermore, it reverses important progress that the state has made in teaching historically accurate, racially inclusive K through 12 curriculum. Copies of the letter were also sent to the South Carolina Board of Education and the State Education Oversight Committee. According to the Legal Defense Fund, the South Carolina Department of Education asserts that school districts can still offer AP African American Studies as a, quote, locally approved honors course. But this would place undue financial burden on districts and prevent students from being eligible for college credit. Other Black history courses also noted to be deactivated in the 2025-2026 school year include dual enrollment Black Atlantic and African Diaspora. That's History 363 for the folks in South Carolina. Also, dual enrollment studies in Black feminism and dual enrollment Black women writers. This letter was signed by the Legal Defense Fund, the South Carolina State Conference of the NAACP, the ACLU of South Carolina, the E3 Foundation, Black Voters Matter, the Charleston Jewish Federation, South Carolina Educators Association, and the AAUP South Carolina. The letter's out there. I encourage you all to look at it in full. But when I saw this, I thought a lot about a number of things. Like many of you, I was an AP student in high school. I took AP Government, AP US History, AP Psychology, and that made a difference. I finished college in 3.5 years in part because I was able to transfer over some of those credits. And if I had the opportunity to take an AP African American Studies class, I absolutely would have taken that class for a number of reasons, including being able to get college credit, which can come in handy, when you're trying to bring down the cost of going to school, right? If at the end of the day, you may have satisfied the requirements for a semester's worth of credit, which means you're paying a semester's less in tuition and room and board. Who wouldn't want that, right? And so those are some of the very practical financial implications to this. But African American history is U.S. history. It's world history. And in South Carolina, they're trying to make people believe otherwise. They're saying, okay, well, you can get honors credit for your little African American Studies course. Not the college credit that it deserves. For folks that may be less familiar, as somebody who worked as staff to a school board member in Los Angeles, as somebody who is a college professor today, when I'm not on air here, I don't think people appreciate the rigor that goes into producing a curriculum. Not like people just sort of jump up one day and say, okay, we're gonna throw together this course and we're just gonna give you college credit. There's a very rigorous process that goes into being able to offer college credit for any course. There's a lot of rigor that goes into developing any course. There are a lot of stakeholders who have a say in that process. And so, this strikes me as being blatantly political. It strikes me as being extreme. And it is another example of the extremism that is afoot, that is designed to erase, diminish, deny not just African American history, but the contributions of Black people in the United States and across the diaspora. And so for folks out there that are looking for a reason to turn up the volume, to ratchet up against the fight against forces that don't like democracy, that don't like the idea of a philosophy of inclusion of any kind. Here's your latest example. This is happening right now in South Carolina, and today it's South Carolina, and tomorrow it may be a state or a city near you. The question is, what are we willing to do about it? Voting is a part of the equation. Organizing is too. That is the quiet part out loud. But let me finish with this. Speaking of democracy, The Guardian is reporting perilous for democracy, good for profits. Is big business ready to love Trump again? You see, chief executives of some of America's largest companies will meet privately with Donald Trump later on today. And many CEOs who were once critical of his unprecedented conduct appear increasingly open to the former president's return to office. That's according to an analysis by The Guardian. The private audience with the former president will take place at the quarterly gathering of the Business Roundtable, which is a powerful Washington lobbying group that advocates for the interest of chief executives of big U.S. firms. Joe Biden was also invited. His chief of staff will attend while the U.S. president is abroad. That's according to a Business Roundtable spokesperson. The meeting comes less than 5 months before the election and less than 4 years after CEOs raised the alarm about political polarization and threats to democracy when Trump refused to accept the results of the 2020 presidential election and incited an insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. See, back then, the Business Roundtable, whose members include Apple's Tim Cook, General Motors' Mary Barra, and JP Morgan's Jamie Dimon, led a chorus of condemnation from corporate America. The country deserves better. That's what the Business Roundtable said in a statement on January 6, 2021, calling on Trump and his administration, quotes, to put an end to the chaos and to facilitate the peaceful transition of power. Now, today, with Biden and Trump tied in the polls, Trump can expect a far warmer reception from corporate bosses. The reality is, this is what they say, the reality is we as CEOs and we as a business roundtable, we're going to work with whomever is in the White House. That's what Chuck Robbins, the chair and CEO of Cisco Systems, told Fortune in March. While corporate America their views appear to have changed, Trump's have not. The former president still has not accepted the results from the 2020 election, nor has he committed to accepting the 2024 outcome. He maintains that the supporters who he urged to storm the Capitol were there with love in their heart. Will Trump today be met with love in the heart of CEOs from major companies from across the country? Is this what it means to normalize the same behavior that so many of them condemned less than 4 years ago? What about those commitments that folks made following the murder of George Floyd? How do they reconcile those commitments, many of them unfulfilled, with giving audience to the former president who is at odds with those very commitments, the leader of a party that is at odds with those very commitments? This meeting today is very troubling, to say the least, but we'll have to leave it there. My thanks to the Village that helps us to produce a more perfect union each and every day, our executive producer, Tavis Smiley, our sound engineer extraordinaire, Miles Lowe, our show producer, Robert Battles, and our podcast publishing guru, Odell Bodie. Remember, don't panic, organize. Do what you can from where you are with what you have. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and you've been listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 15.